Let me give you an example from one of my latest pastor's books. This is The Deeply Formed Life by Rich Villodas. And, Rich is a good guy. I know him. My family knows him. And, but God, there were just so many things in this book that I was like, not only just disagree with, but were just off, really off. And unless you're wise and discerning, unless you have wisdom like Solomon to rightly discern things, you would buy some of this stuff hook, line, and sinker. Let me go to page 63, Deeply Formed Life by Rich Villodas. And he says, believers often think that if we can only convert more people to Christianity, that this will solve the issue of racism. We think that if someone makes a decision for Jesus, this will end his or her racialized perspectives. So the goal comes to bring as many people to the Christian fold of diverse people as possible. But history has shown that some of the worst behavior has come from within the Christian fold. Okay, I'm not sure what he means by converted here. But when you are truly born again, and the Spirit of God comes in you and gives you a new heart, it is very hard to have racism in your heart anymore. 1 John says that if you hate your brother, you don't know God, and God's love is not in you. The cross of Jesus Christ is certainly more powerful than racism. His statement, I think, discounts conversion, discounts the power of the cross. And I'm trying not to take this quote out of context either, but he's saying that conversion is not enough. I disagree. I think in most people, if you truly, genuine, born again, you've been changed by God, that doesn't mean you're all good and that you don't have issues and that you wouldn't treat people unfairly, but you couldn't hate anyone anymore. His statement discounts the power of the cross. We are called as Christians to the ministry of reconciliation, and that includes racial reconciliation. The gospel is good news for racism. The gospel can defeat racism. His statement makes racism more powerful than the gospel. It seems to me that he's starting to get off and to start to preach a different gospel, or to paint a picture where everybody's racist. He goes on again to say in page 70 that men have lived with social advantages over women for millennia, which has led to unjust policy, system, practice, and assumptions. The issue is with this is that am I against against bad men? Yes, of course. Men that will oppress people, men that will hurt people. But the Bible states very clearly that men should lead the house and should lead spiritual communities. And in some ways that would create advantages. But that's biblical. Here he seems to be apologizing that men have advantages where God set things up this way. Starting to get off track. Part of the reason why this world is going down the tubes the way it is right now is the diminished role of men, the demonization of men. We need strong, good, spirit-filled Christian men more than ever in this age. I'm not talking about toxic masculinity or men that are going to bully or hurt people. I'm talking about men that have God in their hearts and want to be servant leaders. I recently saw something that the Chinese government has a campaign to move any images that would make men look weak or feminine. They realize that if they want their government and society to be strong, that it starts with strong men. Pastor Rich, I'm sorry that you're apologizing for men having leadership roles. Page 75 of the Deeply Formed Life. The social construction of race that this fallen world has created, broadly speaking, has normalized and rendered superior white people. Okay, not only is that statement grammatically incorrect, but now he's getting on to here to white supremacy and that like all white people are the devil. It's almost like a little bit almost like getting a little Malcolm X ish in all of this. And then goes on to say that whiteness has historically been a force of oppression and process of rendering certain people inferior, and that we should all, this is page 85 of The Deeply Formed Life by Rich Villodas, then we should all renounce whiteness. White people should apologize and only listen because we've oppressed people and everything. Listen, like if I thought that this would heal the African American community, I might be willing to take the blame and listen and repent. But I don't think that that's the way to turn things around, by demonizing all white people, by blaming white people. I don't think it's going to fix the issues in the community. Now, I'm all for calling out this nation's history of slavery and the impact that slavery has had that's running to this day. I am out for calling out the fact that, on a whole, white people do seem more privileged. I'm out for calling out people that were involved in slavery, but I'm not out for calling all white people to be oppressors, demonized, all white people that should all apologize and listen. I don't think that would help. I think we need to help the black community. I think we need to have our own Christian response to BLM and racial issues. We need to rise up and take leadership in that area. But I don't see how blaming white people is going to make the situation better, demonizing us. I think all of those examples that I just gave you from that book are adventures in missing the point. It seems like a different gospel to me. And some of those things just seem to be un-Christian. Now, I think Pastor Rich is a good guy. I've seen him. He's a good man. He's a good father. He's a good husband. He comes from, his in-laws are wonderful people. They go to the church. His wife is very nice. He's a good pastor. He loves God. He's a praying man. I just think like he has some of the wrong ideas. I'm not attacking him. I'm just questioning some of his ideas because he really is a good person. So if you'd like, I'd like for you to see the whole video of this teaching. This was just a portion of that teaching, which I did on the false church based on a Derek Prince sermon that I heard. And I went over some points that he had mentioned about what the false church looked like, 3 particular signs. And the Deeply Formed Life had some of those elements in the book. Obviously, there is a lot of truth in the Deeply Formed Life. There is even some truth in the points that I called out. But ultimately, I think it was a good example of getting off base, off topic, off into other areas. And Derek Prince did call out liberation theology and social justice movements as part of missing the point, of part of deception in the end times. And that's why I called it out. I wasn't trying to be mean-spirited, but my hope was simply to give the average church goer and attender a good example of what some of this deception looks like. Because if you're not really paying attention and you don't have good discernment and you don't have a love for the truth, you can be easily deceived with some of these things that seem really good. Social justice at heart is a really good thing. It's just a matter of how we're going to go about getting that social justice. It's also a matter of that biblical justice and social justice look a little bit different. And so I'm hoping that you'll see the whole video. You'll see a link for it to pop up, as well as a link to pop up to subscribe to my channel if you like the content today. I'd appreciate if you would subscribe. If you want to find out a little bit about me and my ministry and social media or email address, check the description down below, and that'll give you some more information. Remember, Christianity is three things. It's to love God with all your heart, to love others, and to fulfill the Great Commission, which is to go into the world and preach the gospel. Be blessed. Thank you.